watch this video to see how we went from this, fight with them to get them open, they're stuck all the time, to this. Smooth operating window. Fred here with Make This Your Project. Let's install some new windows. First thing I've got to do is get these casings off. So I'll use my little method of putting the paint scrapers in there and get behind, push the bar in without damaging the wall or the trim. Pull that first piece off, starting on the bottom section here. Get that started. All right. That one came loose pretty easily. And I'm just going to work my way around and get the other two off. Have the casings off and the inner casing that was butted up against the window. Now we're going to check the window opening for level. I ran into a problem on the other one yesterday that this top header was way out of level, way high on one end. That threw things off trying to fit the window in. And the bottom one was not level either. And I see today that both of these are pretty much on. So that's going to make it a lot easier to make my marks. The wall that I'm working with right now on these garage windows is not a load-bearing wall. So the windows that I'm putting in are 24 inches tall versus 21-inch opening for the old window. So what I have to do is cut down to put the window in. What I'm going to do is mark a spot about a foot below the window opening. I'm going to take my level and get a nice straight level line to follow. Extend the width, we'll extend the stud line down here using the level. Now we're set to start cutting out the drywall. I have a fresh, sharp blade and a utility knife. I'm going to score along that pencil line. That'll get reference point to start with. I put a slit along the side of the vapor barrier, left that intact because I can put that back up once I get the framing adjusted. One little trick I've learned for pulling staples out of wood, like these for the vapor barrier, just get a hold of it with a side cutters, and you can get a hold of that staple on the side and pull it right out. So I'm going to stuff this insulation down inside the wall, so I've got an open area to start working. I have 21.5-inch rough opening right now for that 21-inch window that's in here. I need a 24-inch rough opening for the new window. So I have to allow for that, plus another 1.5 inches for the width of that 2x4 that's going to be laying on here for the new sill plate. I'm going to mark a line at 25.5 inches right here. What I'll do is take the level and extend that line across these other studs. So I've got my cut marks. And then before I cut, I have to get this window out. I have to open up the sheathing on the outside and get this plate off from here. I took the window itself out, keeps from having a lot of broken glass laying all over the place, and I'm down to removing this frame section now. So let's get started on that. I'm not concerned at all with how the frame looks when I'm done because we're throwing these in the dumpster and the sheathing is going to get covered up with siding. So we'll just get in here and start prying it loose. Now this window is only face nailed in. luckily, with the brick mold, so it's pretty easy to get out. And just like that, the old frame is out. I marked a line on the inside 12 inches down from the top of that sill plate and across to cut out the drywall to give me room to work on cutting these studs off to put a lower sill in. I'm going to do the same thing outside today on the sheathing to open it up here. I've got the advantage right now that I'm working with sheathing. On a normal house, you'd have sheathing and you'd already have siding on it. So that's something to bear in mind. If you're changing a window on your house and you already have siding, you're going to have to contend with that and get down to the sheathing. So I'm going to mark that 12-inch line, this time with a Sharpie so I can see what I have. I'm pretty confident that this is close to level, but we'll double check it anyway when we draw our line. And yes, it is. Saw is set, we're ready to start cutting. Now you'll notice I've got a respirator, hearing protection, safety glasses with side shields, and gloves. Safety is the first thing to worry about. Looks promising so far. I've marked the lines for the rough opening with a Sharpie. From the top here to the top of this guide board, I have 25.5 inches. Back off 1.5 inches, and you got 24 inches for the rough opening for the new sill stud to go in. All the way across, checked with the level. I only have 3 to cut, obviously. Jack stud there, and then I'll have to put a new stud in over here to hold the sill on this end. I did it this way with a piece on each side as a guide, so I can use the Sawzall, the reciprocating saw, to just guide across and cut those straight. Peel this off and throw it out with the junk. Now I need to drill some holes and put some construction screws through. I'm going to start on this first stud. A little trick I have for making sure I'm lined up across is I just hold another stud up to the edge, the one I'm attaching to get this one in the right spot. I like to drill pilot holes. I only put 1 screw in each one to start with, and then I put the second screw in to finish it and anchor it. So now I'm just going to double check my alignment here. Lined up. Drill a hole. Drop the screw in. I can finish that along and do the rest of these, and then I'll set this in place. A note, reason I'm using construction screws is instead of spikes, instead of nails, is because it's just a lot easier when you're trying to do work like this, rehab work, to just use construction screws. It gives you a chance to line things up instead of trying to nail it in and case something's not quite right, you can always back the screw out. Let's just check. What do we have here? Look at that. We have a 24-inch rough opening. Let's get it closed in. I have the piece of sheathing that I took off the house. Obviously, I have to cut that back now to make it fit back in. This is the top section here. This is the bottom where I made the cut. I want to fit that back in where I took it out because it'll fit the contours. And then I will caulk that when I set it in to make sure it's sealed. So I needed a piece that was 9 3/4, so I'm going 9 11/16 to make sure I got a good fit without anything sticking over. So what I've done with the saw unplugged, always unplug the saw, don't just turn it off. I marked the inside edge of the blade at 9 11/16 of an inch, because I'm going to slide the piece through this way, and I will come out with a piece 9 11/16 wide. I need to save this because from this piece I need to do a narrow side strip to fill in where I had to take a little bit out of there. So make sure the saw is locked down, the guide. Now we can plug it in. I'm just going to stand back and double check here. I'm not too worried about the tape measure. Got my pusher block here, and let's cut it. Let's see if this thing even comes close to fitting. Wow, look at that. Okay, I'm going to grab the caulk gun. I'm going to lay a bead of caulk in around here to make sure this is sealed. Nail it in. Then I'm going to cut a little filler strip for right here out of that scrap. And I have to cut a filler strip for the top. And then we will be ready to put a window in. I like to use a little caulk in the corners just to make sure we are sealed along this mating edge. Even though this will get covered with Tyvek and siding, still like to make sure I got a good seal on a seam like this because it's not up against anything solid like a stud. And a bead here, and for good measure I'm just going to lay a bead across the face of this top of this sill stud. Hot dip galvanized box nails. They'll stand up to the weather and they grip. Put them in some fresh holes here. Here I'm putting in place a simple but effective flashing made from roofing felt on the bottom sill of the window. I make it 5 feet wide for a 4-foot opening. That gives me 6 inches on each side. And I staple that in. If any water comes in around the window flanges, it will not sit on the wood sill. It'll be shed off by the roofing felt. Just trim it and staple it in place on the front of the sheathing. Probably not necessary, but I like the extra little protection there. Okay, next thing I'm doing is putting in place a 1/4 inch thick spacer. I need a 1/4 inch on the top and the bottom of the window. I'm putting it in temporarily with screws so that once the window is set, I can take it back out and insulate it around the window. This way, when I set the window, I don't need someone inside to shim and guide and make sure I have the gaps. The gaps are already set to set the window into it. put one in on the side, and we will be ready to dry fit the window to make sure it fits. With the strips in place, I've dry fit the window, and I had my supervisor check from the other side to make sure the gaps are even, and they are. It's always a good idea to do that before you put caulk on, just in case you run into a problem. We know we're good. I can caulk this, set it in place, and nail it in. All right, I've put a bead of caulk around the two side flanges and the top flange, and that bead of caulk runs right along in line with the nail holes. That means when I nail it in, I'm going to be putting pressure on the caulk in those spots and squeezing it into place. I got this side and the bottom, you got that side and the bottom.
Just together.
You good? All right, just get it up there into place. All right, the top is in. We are tight to the shim on that side and the bottom shim. Flange is lined up. Start nailing in. I'm just using some roofing nails, hot dip galvanized roofing nails. We'll pick a spot here towards the center. Drive a nail in just so it's snug. Don't nail it in real tight, because then the window has no room for expansion. You got to have that. All right, I'm going to drop another one in here. We are secured. I'm going to go around the window now, every other hole, and put a nail in, and this window will be installed. There. We're all nailed in. Ready for siding. Here is the completely finished product after we got the new siding on the house and some casings around the windows on the outside. And on the inside, I replaced that drywall and put casings around the windows in there. Turned out to be a very nice upgrade to the house, made it look more modern, and the windows are much nicer to use. We're very satisfied with how this all turned out. Once again, this is Fred with Make This Your Project. If you enjoyed this video and learned a few things from it, please click like and consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your projects and take care. That was a busy day.
It certainly was.
Here's to our new window. Prost! Thanks for watching.